At Bethel, the words spoken during morning worship shape the worldview of thousands and ripple out to influence millions of Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide. But on this day, a talk entitled "Obey Your Leaders" reveals something deeper, something shocking, something disturbing. A message hidden beneath soft tones. A message not designed to comfort, but to control. Let's dissect this morning worship, line by line, timestamp by timestamp, and uncover what the governing body really wants from its members. If you're new here, welcome to Tell Me Dr. K, a channel manipulative religious leaders wish you never discover, because on this channel, we expose what they are desperately trying to hide. I'm Dr. K, a theologian, consultant, and author. In addition to 3 other degrees, I hold 2 PhDs and a degree in theology with distinction. If you crave for deep dives that do not shy away from controversies and expose the truth, subscribe and smash the notice bell for more. The talk begins with a clear warning. Follow Jehovah's direction, respect those who lead, and avoid murmuring. Here is the clip.
Today's scriptural text highlights the importance of following Jehovah's direction and respecting those taking the lead, while avoiding murmuring, which cost the nation of Israel as they rejected Moses and lost Jehovah's favor. However, there are times when we may not fully understand the direction we receive, and we may have questions. When we express them, does this mean we are murmuring? Well, to help us answer this question, we would like to discuss the theme, "Happy are those who have not seen and yet believe."
From that sentence, the speaker draws a line in the sand. Leadership equals God's will, questioning dangerous, doubt rebellion, murmuring equals loss of divine favor. No more doubt is cast as spiritual danger. Next, the speaker reveals Thomas' skepticism about Jesus' resurrection. At 4 minutes and 2 seconds, he says, "Unless I see, I will not believe." Manufacturing false Jesus. The speaker highlights Jesus' gentle response to Thomas. At 6 minutes and 6 seconds, he says,
For example, when Thomas questioned the resurrection of Jesus, notice how Jesus responded. Let's read this together, still there in John chapter 20. We're going to continue this account in verse 26. It reads, "Well, 8 days later, his disciples were again indoors, and Thomas was with them. Jesus came, although the doors were locked, and he stood in their midst, and he said, 'May you have peace.'" Now, in this moment, how would you feel if you were Thomas? We can imagine the shock Thomas must have felt seeing Jesus standing before him. Might he have thought, "I wonder if Jesus knows I doubted the reports of his resurrection." Well, if this was the case, he didn't have to wonder for long. Jesus directed his attention immediately to Thomas in verse 27. Next, he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and take your hand and stick it into my side, and stop doubting, but believe." Jesus did not deal with Thomas in a stern way, telling him, "You have doubts again, Thomas? Where were you last week when I appeared before the other disciples?" No, he lovingly helped him to overcome his feelings of uncertainty. And how did Thomas respond? Notice verse 28. Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God." He immediately expressed his faith.
This is true, but the speaker avoids an important part. Jesus welcomed the request for evidence. He didn't condemn it, he invited it. Yet the talk rewrites the message. At 7 minutes and 10 seconds, the speaker says,
For this reason, Jesus tells him the words of our theme in verse 29, "Because you have seen me, have you believed? Happy are those who have not seen and yet believe."
The real Jesus acknowledged pain and confusion. The Watchtower Jesus demands obedience. This is theological distortion. The biblical Jesus strengthens faith through truth, but the organization Jesus strengthens control through compliance. Then comes the ultimate trigger. At 7 minutes 39 seconds, the speaker said,
His response revealed his true motives behind his feelings. He wasn't murmuring or rejecting those taking the lead. He needed reassurance. For this reason, Jesus tells him the words of our theme in verse 29, because you have seen me, have you believed? Happy are those who have not seen and yet believe.
He wasn't murmuring, he needed reassurance. The implication is terrifying. If you ask a wrong kind of question, you are murmuring. And murmuring in JW theology is rebellion, disloyalty, the sin that killed thousands of Israelites, the sin that removes Jehovah's favor, the sin associated with apostasy. So they escalate the fear. At 8 minutes, the speaker says,
basically, he is saying to him, Thomas, you won't always have all the answers, but if you strengthen your faith and trust in me, you'll be happy. You will believe it even when you don't see it. Now, this strengthened Thomas, and he continued his faithful service.
You won't always have all the answers. At 8 minutes 48 seconds, the speaker says,
there will be times when we will feel a little uncertain, which may cause us to have questions. It's important to remember that this isn't necessarily a sign that something's wrong with our faith and that we're going to begin murmuring. No, sometimes, like Thomas, we simply need a little extra encouragement and reassurance. And Jesus' response to Thomas is a powerful example of patience and love. He provided exactly what Thomas needed to believe. This really shows that Jehovah understands our struggles, our imperfections, and is always ready to help us through them.
Here is where the talk drops the mask and reveals the real message of this morning worship. At 9 minutes and 18 seconds, the speaker says, Jehovah has given us a spirit-directed men who shepherd us.
This really shows that Jehovah understands our struggles, our imperfections, and is always ready to help us through them. He has given us his word, the Bible, which reassures us by reminding us of his promises and love and provides comfort during difficult times. We have spirit-directed men who shepherd us and give us good direction.
This merges the governing body with divine authority. The theological fusion the Bible never endorses. Then the lines that exposes the purpose of the talk comes at 9 minutes and 36 seconds. Friends who help us align our thoughts and feelings to theocratic direction.
We have spirit-directed men who shepherd us and give us good direction. And reassuring friends that we can express our feelings openly and who will patiently listen to us, but also help us to align our thoughts and feelings to theocratic direction. In these ways, Jehovah gives us the reassurance we need right when we need it, and we can imitate his example when those we serve with express their uncertainties and doubts to us. We also learn a valuable lesson from Thomas. Once he received this reassurance with his words, he immediately expressed his faith, not allowing these doubts and questions to continue, which could have led to murmuring. So when we pray to Jehovah and he provides us with the reassurance we need, we put our faith and trust in him. Our response to his direction will reveal our true motives.
Listen carefully. Align thoughts, align feelings. This is the textbook thought reform language. And finally, at 10 minutes 16 seconds, the speaker says, strengthen your trust in Jehovah, in Jesus, and those taking the lead.
So let us strengthen our faith and trust in Jehovah, Jesus, and those taking the lead, and support and reassure one another with the same patience and love that Jesus showed Thomas. When we do, we will avoid the negative mindset that could lead to murmuring, and we will be able to agree with Jesus' words to Thomas, "Happy are those who have not seen and yet believe."
The most dangerous sentence in the entire talk. Jehovah, Jesus, the governing body, placed in one breath, equal in loyalty demands, interchangeable in authority. This is spiritual hierarchy rewritten to enforce obedience to men. This morning talk wasn't about a biblical lesson. It was about control. It was a blueprint. A blueprint for suppressing critical thought, a blueprint for suppressing doubt, discouraging critical thinking, equating loyalty to God to the governing body, controlling emotions, reframing human insecurity as spiritual danger, demanding and questioning obedience. The message is loud and clear. Don't question, don't look too closely, don't think independently, just believe. Even when you cannot see, even when you cannot understand, and even when what you've heard contradicts your conscience, just believe and obey. But true faith doesn't fear questions. True leadership doesn't silence doubt. And true Christianity never merges loyalty with God to loyalty with men. The moment that happens, you are no longer obeying God. You are obeying men. And you are obeying a system of control. And systems can be wrong. Jesus never is. If you enjoy this breakdown, kindly do me a favor. Like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that this message can reach more people who are living under the control of the governing body, who are afraid to independently think, to check other sources. By commenting, liking, and sharing, you make this video to be seen by more people who need to be freed from this chaotic manipulative system of the governing body of the Jehovah's Witnesses. If you do not watch part 1 of this episode, click on this link. To watch the breakdown of other JW broadcastings, click on this link.